What if the reason that your business isn't growing faster isn't because you're missing something? It's because you've added too much. Because right now, focus is what creates speed and distraction destroys it. And you're not running out of ideas, you're drowning in them. And the more distractions you're chasing, the slower everything moves. So while most businesses waste years chasing the wrong things, adding more, doing more, and feeling busier than ever, what if there was a way for you to hit your 5-year goals in just 6 months so that you focus only on the moves that actually create momentum while everything else fades away? Well, today I'm showing you how, using the head down theory, the simple principle that shows you the fastest way forward to reaching your goals is sometimes to stop looking up. Now, hey, and welcome back to the Business Real Talk, where we cut the fluff and give you the real talk on how to grow and scale a business in half the time. Now, last week we talked all about the unicorn effect and how it allows you to charge $5,000 to $10,000 more and have clients feel like it's the deal of the century. And if you started applying that, you probably noticed something. Having the right offers changes everything at the client level, but it doesn't automatically make your business start to move faster. Now, today we're going to take a step back and look at the bigger picture of what it actually takes to have all the moving parts work together to speed up your growth so that you can understand why the fastest growing businesses aren't actually doing more, they're doing less, but better. This is how you hit those 5-year goals in just 6 months, making your business completely unrecognizable because of the results you've created in such a short period of time. Now, let's get real. Most driven and successful business owners that I speak to aren't just chasing revenue. They want it all. They want revenue, recognition, and results so that they have the speed and leverage where they're able to double, triple, or even 10x their revenue without spending more hours in the office or staring at their phone. And they want to shift from marketing for attention to being talked about in rooms that they're not even in because your expertise and innovation demand it. And you're landing book deals, partnerships, and press coverage because you stand out. And you want to run a streamlined business that doesn't rely on you. So you can step back, think bigger, and finally feel like a visionary CEO again. And you want to set your business up for compounding results with every action, knowing that what you're doing today accelerates your results tomorrow, next month, and next year. But the brutal reality is that right now, it probably looks a little more like this. You're adding more offers, more funnels, more content, thinking that hustle equals growth and spreading yourself so thin that nothing actually fully gains momentum. And you're constantly chasing the what's next, reacting to trends and advice instead of executing on the moves that actually accelerate those results. And your attention is fractured across dozens of initiatives. So even when something is working, it's slow, messy, and inconsistent. And worst of all the hours, the energy, the effort that you're pouring in don't feel like they're compounding towards the life and business that you imagined, at least not at the pace that you expected. You know your business is capable of more, but right now it feels like you're running faster than ever, and yet your growth is stuck in first gear. Now, we're going to keep it real because that's what we do here, because most driven business owners are falling into one of 4 traps that secretly steal the speed from everything they do. And when you recognize them, you stop spinning your wheel. So let's break them down. Number 1 is the more doesn't mean faster trap. Now, most people try to grow faster by doing more. So more offers, more content, more platforms, more projects. And the truth is, the more directions you pull your attention, the slower your momentum becomes. Because speed doesn't come from addition, it comes from subtraction, from alignment. Now, the second biggest trap is the effort fallacy. When there's this belief that working harder is the shortcut. So you double your hours, you push the team, you launch more often, you think that effort equals acceleration. But you can't out-hustle inefficiency. Effort doesn't accelerate results if it's not focused. So true speed is going to come from precision and not pressure. Now, the third one is what I call the opportunity overload loop. This is where you're saying yes to everything, and that actually ends up being the fastest way to slow things down. So book deals, partnerships, podcasts, shiny new ideas, they all look like momentum, but without direction, they're actually just distractions in disguise. So every misaligned yes is pulling you off of the path to your real goal. Now, the fourth and final one is what I call the strategy chaser syndrome. And you see this one all the time. Leaders that are switching strategies every quarter, chasing whatever's working for someone else, and they think that the right tactic will create speed. But without an IP foundation guiding those decisions, it's kind of just random motion. And random motion isn't momentum, it's noise. But listen, you're not in the game of constant reinvention. You're in the game of creating a business that moves like a freight train, unstoppable once it's on track. Now, all four of these traps have one single thing in common. All of those approaches focus on expanding effort instead of amplifying direction, giving you this illusion of progress while actually slowing you down because you're chasing movement instead of momentum. And the reality is, most business owners don't fail because they move too slowly. They fail because they're moving too fast in too many directions. And it's the difference between activity and acceleration. So if you want to hit your 5-year goals in 6 months, it's not about doing more. It's about putting your head down, removing the distractions, aligning every move, and compounding your focus. This is what I call the head down theory. And it's the answer to creating unrecognizable success in just 6 months. Because everyone wants to move faster, but the people who actually move faster are the ones who understand that the fastest way forward isn't to look up, it's to put your head down. And no one proved that better than a kid who couldn't even get playtime on his high school football team. Now, in the early 90s, he joined a team that hadn't won a single game in years. No playtime, no wins, no hint of future greatness. Now, most players would have completely quit or switched sports, but instead, he kept showing up every practice, every drill, every rep, even when he knew he wouldn't touch the field every Friday night. Now, by senior year, he had earned his shot and he had led that same losing team to their first winning season in 7 years. That quiet persistence caught the attention of University of Michigan, and he was recruited as a quarterback in 1995. But when he arrived, the story kind of started all over again. He wasn't first string. He wasn't even second string. He was 7th string. Now, for 2 years, he barely played. He watched game after game from the sidelines while other quarterbacks rotated through the spotlight. And he didn't complain. He just did what he had always done. He put his head down and he went to work. He studied film late at night. He sharpened his accuracy, his decision making. And when his moment came, he was ready. So by his final season, he was the starter. He was leading Michigan to 20 wins and a Citrus Bowl victory. But even after all of that, even when the 2000 NFL draft came around, he sat through 198 names before anyone called his. 6th round, pick 199. No one expected him to start. No one expected him to win. But once again, he put his head down. He trained harder. He studied longer. He prepared like he was already the starter. Then in 2001, when Drew Bledsoe went down with an injury, he stepped in and he never looked back. That season, he led the Patriots to a Super Bowl win, and he went on to become one of the greatest athletes in history. 7 Super Bowl wins, 3 MVPs, over 100,000 passing yards. Tom Brady, a name that even non-sports fans remember because when everyone else looked up, he kept his head down. Now, his story isn't about talent, it's about trajectory. Every rep, every quiet practice, every night studying film, it compounded. And that's exactly what the head down theory does inside of your business. It aligns your effort with momentum. So every single move builds on the last, turning small focused actions into exponential growth. So I'm going to break down for you the formula behind the head down theory so that you can turn quiet focus into unstoppable momentum and then turn consistent efforts into unrecognizable results. Now, there are 3 parts that make the head down theory work, and we're going to start with number 1, which is what I call building the scaffolding. Now, before you can ever start moving faster, you need something strong enough that's going to hold that speed. Now, without the right scaffolding, every decision, every action, every hire is kind of just like movement without direction. So your scaffolding is your IP asset. It's that framework that holds your business together, and it's the structure that directs your offers, your marketing, your sales, your delivery, your growth, your vision, everything. So every single decision compounds instead of competes, because speed doesn't come from activity, it comes from alignment. And when everything connects back to a single foundation, your effort amplifies instead of fragments. Without it, you're going to find yourself making smart decisions that still lead to scattered results. One day you're building a new offer, the next a new funnel, then you're changing your messaging again, not because it's wrong, but because there's no structure guiding the direction. So you're stuck reacting to opportunities instead of compounding them. And sure, it might feel like progress in the moment, but it's kind of just motion without direction. And you end up with marketing that feels inconsistent or disconnected, and teams that operate in silos or pull in different directions, and offers that evolve, but they end up losing clarity and coherence, and founders who constantly feel like they're rebuilding instead of scaling. Your attention and action are being pulled in so many different directions, but your IP asset is the scaffolding that's going to hold everything together. It gives every decision, every offer, every message a clear direction to move towards. So you're building up, not just out. I want you to think of it kind of like a skyscraper. Without scaffolding, every floor would kind of shift off center until eventually the whole structure leans and collapses. But with scaffolding in place, you can rise higher, faster, more predictably, because each level is building on the one before it. And we see that with all the industry greats. For Apple, their design philosophy is their IP asset, right? Simplicity as sophistication is the scaffolding. It drives everything from product to marketing to culture. For HubSpot, their inbound methodology isn't just a slogan, it's their IP scaffolding that dictates how they sell, how they market, how they deliver. For Amazon, they have the IP asset of customer obsession. So every service from Prime to AWS aligns with making the customer experience effortless. This scaffolding is what turns every innovation into compounding growth. And then we see it in Disney. Their IP asset is this immersive storytelling and magical experience. So every film, every park, every product funnels back to that core narrative, making the brand synonymous with imagination. You get the point, right? Your IP asset is what turns that effort into strategic execution, because once you have that, every move compounds. Everything leads back to the same big picture, and your team knows what to do. Your offer connects back to your bigger vision. Your decisions stop slowing you down. They start speeding you up. And it's what gives you direction, so you're not reacting, you're building. So you need to ask yourself this. What is your philosophy? What is the belief that carries your way of thinking, your actions, the way that you view the change that you want to bring to your industry? This is the starting point of creating the scaffolding and your IP asset that drives your business momentum. And here's the key. Without it, no amount of effort is actually going to compound, because you can work harder, you can add all of the things, but without a framework, without the asset that holds everything in place, you're kind of just going through the motions. You're not actually accelerating things. So with that in place, the next piece is knowing how to actually go deeper instead of wider, and focusing on the right moves rather than trying to spread yourself too thin. So I call this depth, not breadth, where we focus on moves that actually matter. And the fastest way that right now you're probably slowing down your business is spreading yourself too thin, right? Most businesses think that growth comes from doing more. So they do that, right? They create more offers, they create more content, more campaigns, more projects. And the result is that that energy and attention is scattered across a dozen different initiatives. Momentum gets really lost on projects that never actually have the time, the space, the ability to gain traction. And you have this constant feeling of busyness without measurable acceleration. Now, speed doesn't come from expansion. It actually comes from depth. So depth is about going deeper on the things that actually work rather than chasing everything at once. So it's this like laser focus on the highest leverage moves that drive the growth in your business, building them until they become unstoppable. I kind of want you to think of it like, imagine we're digging a well. If you were to sit there and dig shallow holes in 10 different spots, you might get a little bit of water in each of those, but it's pretty unreliable and slow. But if you dig really deep in the right spot and you strike a powerful constant source, it's going to sustain you indefinitely. And you're not stuck here trying to do 100 different things to try and produce the same result. So here are a few ways just to kind of give you a tangible way to look at this, that you focus on depth instead of breadth. So in marketing, you perfect a few core campaigns that continually bring in leads instead of trying to chase every shiny tactic. Or in sales, you master one process that reliably converts instead of experimenting with dozens of scripts. Or in delivery, you refine your signature program or offer so results are predictable and scalable. And in team, you focus your team on a few key priorities so they become exceptional rather than mediocre at many. Now, we see this all the time, and the reality is you see people who are like, oh, this offer's not doing well. Let me just go and create another one. Maybe it will sell better if I have a different offer. And it's like, no, you're not actually solving the root of the problem, which is you didn't know how to create demand in the first place. You're just trying to sugarcoat it. You're trying to put lipstick on a pig and trying to solve the root problem. Now, we see proof of how this strategy actually performs and creates some of the fastest results in markets just by looking at some of the top leaders. A great example is Tesla. They, rather than them launching 100 different cars at once, they focused on perfecting electric vehicles and then scaling battery tech. So they created depth in core innovation that made them a market leader. Airbnb is another amazing example. They started with just one type of accommodation, private rooms in shared apartments. And then once they perfected that user experience, then and only then did they expand. Depth in the early model is what actually created the foundation for global dominance. Another great example is Spotify. They focused on creating the best streaming experience and mastering music discovery before branching into podcast playlists and other feeds. So I want you to think about it in your own business. How many times have you sat there and gone on to newer, bigger, better things thinking that was the resolution rather than going deeper on the things that are already producing results? The point here is that depth compounds faster than breadth. When you focus on a few things that actually move the needle, everything else becomes easier and your marketing starts working faster. Your team executes with clarity. Your offers are getting better traction. Your momentum builds naturally. So I'm going to give you an example in my own business. I have been running the exact same model for the last 9-10 years. Nothing has changed. We may make some slight optimizations, but I've been selling the same programs. I've been using the same marketing. I've literally driven the same processes over and over and over again. And a lot of people get scared of boring businesses because they think, oh my gosh, things have shifted in the market. Things have changed here. I have to reinvent the wheel. But the reality is it only ends up creating more of an issue. The reason so many people are skipping around on strategies are one of two things. One, they either don't have the IP asset or the foundation. So they don't actually know what they're building. They don't know what they're trying to do in the world. So their business ends up trying to constantly solve these problems that aren't actually what they need in their business. Or number two is that they're focusing all their time and effort on things that they don't know are getting results or not because they believe, oh my gosh, if this has happened here, then I'm just going to need to go reinvent anything. So I want you to think about your own business for a second. Which campaigns, products, or processes are already really driving results? Make a list of them. Now, which ones instead are scattered, inconsistent, or just kind of keeping you busy? If you focused all of your energy on the moves that truly matter, the things that actually work, I want you to ask yourself, what could you achieve in the next 6 months that currently feels like it's years away? Because this is exactly what the next piece of the head down theory addresses, which is measured results. Because depth alone is not enough. You need to be able to track, measure, and optimize what's actually working. So you're compounding that focus and it actually turns into predictable growth. So let's jump into the third and final piece of the puzzle, which is measured results, knowing what's actually moving the needle. Now, I already said it, but depth alone is not enough. You can focus on all the right moves all day long, but if you don't know what's actually working, you're kind of just guessing at things. And guesswork is really freaking expensive, both in time, money, and momentum. Now, measured results are about tracking the right indicators. So every action that you're taking is compounding instead of competing. It's kind of like turning activity into insight and insight into acceleration. I want you to kind of think of it like you're running a marathon with a GPS. Now, you could be moving super freaking fast, but if you're off course, all of that effort isn't actually getting you closer to the finish line. The GPS is what's going to tell you where to adjust, where to push, when to conserve energy. And without it, you're kind of just running in circles. So get this right, and you know exactly which campaigns, offers, and experiments are driving ROI. Your team can replicate wins again and again, and every tweak or optimization is compounding your momentum. So you stop guessing and you start scaling predictably. So I'm going to give you a couple real world examples because I want you to see and feel this in the real world. Number one is Netflix. You guys know I love Netflix, but they track engagement and viewing patterns constantly. So every new show, every feature is building on what actually keeps users hooked. Now, Shopify, they use metrics and merchant activities, conversions to look at churn, to refine platform, to look at marketing and onboarding, ensuring that the growth scales predictably. And lastly is Nike. They measure campaign performance and product adoption and digital engagement and double down on what resonates while eliminating everything that doesn't. So I want you to look at this. Like these companies all have the same things in common. They have the three things we've talked about. They know how to keep their head down. They have an IP asset that kind of informs every move they make. They understand that it's not about breadth, it's about depth. And then they recognize that they need measured results that actually inform their actions. So I want you to ask yourself this. What are the 3 to 5 key results that actually matter right now? What are we measuring for? I want you to set a way for you to simply measure those consistently every single day, every single week, every single month. Then make every decision you make going forward, every campaign, every hire, everything that you do, align with improving those numbers. That way, your depth is becoming intelligent depth. You're not just focused, you're focused on what actually creates and drives growth. So while most business owners are running faster than ever, you'll know how to create something that's working without all of the effort, energy, and resources that are necessary. Now, when we put all three of these and they work together, structure, depth, and measured focus, you're going to stop chasing growth. You're going to start compounding it. You're going to see that you create a boring business, that you create a process that allows you to have your head down, continue to get results over and over again. That is the power of the head down theory. It's how you collapse time, reaching 5-year goals in 6 months. And I have dozens of examples of clients who have done this. And you make your business results unrecognizable in 6 months. I want you to think about that. What would it change for you if the things that you thought were 5 years out from here right now became a reality in 6 months, in 12 months? If the things that you thought seemed so freaking far out of reach became a reality, because that is exactly what it looks like when you create a process that leverages the head down theory. You create a result that seems totally out of reach right now because you have the right pieces of the puzzle that does that. And this is exactly where the easiest method comes in. It takes that head down theory, that scaffolding, the depth, the measured focus, and it turns it into a step-by-step ecosystem for your business. So every lead, every client, every offer, every campaign works together, not in isolation. And so you end up stop chasing results and you start compounding them. Great example is I was talking with a client this weekend and she was talking about how she's taking on some new speaking opportunities. And I asked her, how does this fit into the rest of your IP asset and what we've thought about? And she looked at it and she was like, I'm spending all this time creating this thing. And she had no idea how it fit into the whole IP asset. She just was like, I thought that this was a good idea and good press is good press, right? But in reality, it wasn't helping her reach her goals. It wasn't doing anything for her business. And that meant that she was kind of just scattering direction. And instead of doing that, she was able to actually focus in more on the things that were producing results. And suddenly she had incredible shifts that were allowing her to create a trajectory of being able to double her revenue over the next 90 days. I want you to think about that. Like, that is what happens when you understand and apply the head down theory. And the easiest method is how we actually do this. So I want to break down for you how the easiest method works. It starts with what I call winning the market and knowing your innovative advantage. So your best clients, the people who are like the best of the best, the creme de la creme, they're not looking for another take on the same thing. They're searching for a breakthrough that makes them say, holy crap, where has this been? It's exactly what I'm looking for. This is your innovative IP asset. We work closely together with our clients to collapse decades that many businesses spend trying to create this body of work. And instead, we turn their innovative approach into a methodology in just 30 days. So our innovation gap methodology is this engineered approach where we help you identify and create not only your innovative IP, but turning that into a methodology that now speaks to a major gap in the market and is fully communicatable. So you have leads that are coming to you. This is how you become the category leader. It's how you become the innovative expert, how you develop the scaffolding that's going to drive your entire business. So you don't just compete, you make your competition irrelevant, and your high intent clients seek you out, instantly recognizing your value, and they invest without hesitation. So this step alone allows my clients to 5 to 10x their price and have leads lining up to work with them. Let me give you a quick example. I helped my client develop her methodology over the last 45 days. We sat down and we looked at it and we're like, well, how can we actually utilize this to create new revenue assets inside of your business? So one of the things we realized is that she could actually create a licensing process that she could take to corporations and have them utilize inside of their leadership and sales teams so that she can actually turn her IP asset into a revenue stream she never even thought about. That is millions of dollars that she never even acknowledged because before that, she didn't have an IP asset. Okay. So next is actually turning that IP asset, your method, into a bingeable decision system. So right now, you're probably spending a lot of time trying to communicate your value, trying to market your business, trying to stay top of mind, right? You're doing all the initiatives that people tell you to do. The reality is there's an easier way for you to be able to create a process that does the selling for you. So I want you to think of selling without selling. And the best way to exemplify this is how Netflix kind of gets you hooked on a series. I want you to instead imagine that, like, right now, the way you binge watch an entire series on Netflix and you're totally hooked, you're like obsessed, you want to watch every freaking season and every single show that comes up. up, I want you to imagine that your buyers do the same thing with you. The bingeable decision system is quite literally built to move your clients and your prospects through a process like they're binging a show. So they're becoming obsessed and selling themselves on working with you every single step of the way. It doesn't just work because it's like we string together some great videos and audios and that's what it does. It's actually built on what I call my mirror decision theory, which is we acknowledge that there's a process, a cycle that people go through when they're making a decision, any decision, literally if they're deciding what to make for dinner tonight or working with you, their brain goes through the same exact decision cycle. So rather than us randomly throw stuff out there hoping that it helps them make that decision, we just mirror their decision cycle. We know exactly what are the like triggers, the steps that they have to go through. So we mirror that inside of our bingeable decision system. What that does, no more chasing, no more months of back and forth, no exhausting content output. You just have a simple system that's actually getting your leads to sell themselves. Now, once you have that in place, third and final piece of the puzzle is delivering on the promise that you had made with a happy client machine. Now, marketing alone is just not enough. I hope that you understand that. You need to actually be able to deliver on the results that create raving fans, okay? The happy client machine is what allows you to codify your genius, your IP, and turn it into a delivery system that actually gets your clients world-class results at scale so that they become your biggest sales team, your best supporters that share everything that you do because of the results that they've gotten. The key to this is what we call a results mechanism process, which essentially solves for the problem of what actually gets people results without being dependent upon you. So not only are your clients getting better results, but they're doing that without needing to become dependent on you so that you could eventually license your process, create a certification program, create all these other opportunities that don't rely on your genius. This is how legacies are made. And it's the power behind the EZS method, aligning your systems, your strategies, your innovation so that you can actually dominate your market and become the most talked about and most bought from expert, and your growth becomes completely predictable. So if you have heard enough and you're like, I want to see how this works inside of my business, I'm going to invite you to the next step, which is to book a growth optimization call. On this call, we're going to review your current client acquisition. We're going to look at how you position your expertise so that your clients are actually chasing you down. And I'll show you how that you can use the EZS method to turn your business into a bingeable masterpiece. So if you're ready to go apply for that call, head on over to easyesleads.com/call to book your call. But if you're new around here, first of all, thank you so much for being here. We're so excited to have you. If you want to learn a little bit more about how we use the EZS method paired with the Netflix effect so that we can get leads to sell themselves, I want to invite you to check out our on-demand mini series that breaks this all down. You can binge through it in under an hour and see exactly how I've developed this proprietary and innovative method based on the psychology of how human behavior to create the easiest yes possible. So you can head on over to thenetflixeffect.com to check it out. Now, my goal for you after hearing this episode is that you're walking away completely thinking differently. So if you've even had just a shred of shift in how you think, and you're starting to think, oh my gosh, I've been looking at growth all wrong. I've been looking at how I scale my business in a way that it was so much harder than it needed to be. That's essentially what the goal here is. I would love and appreciate if you could take just 1 minute to rate, subscribe, share this episode with a friend so that we can continue to support true experts and innovators in their field, creating a method that truly creates a movement. So until next time, here's to keeping it real.